All right, welcome to a very special edition of the Roundtable. I'm Joe Habib, and I'm being joined by the CEO of HCP, D-Style Boxing, and also
How's it
the
going?
mighty Maestro and Dangerous Dave from the 408, and the wonderful, illustrious Christine Lopez from Women Crushing It Wednesdays. But Christine, women crush it every day, not just on Wednesdays.
You're right. You're right. But I wanted to be fair. So I had to
Okay.
give, other people some days. And I just said, you know what? I'll totally take Wednesdays. But you're right. We crush it every day. Absolutely.
That's right. All right.
Every day and twice on Wednesday.
So obviously, we have the big fight last week, Manny Pacquiao versus Ugas. And we have the aftermath. People are still talking about this fight. A lot of questions being asked about both guys. And the biggest question is, did Pacquiao get old in this fight? Number one. Or was this just a bad style matchup for him? Now, I'm going to kick it over to you, Maestro, and I want to get your opinion on this.
I think it's a combination of both. To me, it's an issue of apportioning it one way and the other. So it could be 50-50, it could be 60-40, it could be 70-30. I'm going to lead with 70% age because at the end of the day, the guy's 42. I'm not yet 40, and I definitely feel a hell of a lot different than I did when I was in my early 30s or when I was in my 20s. So it's got age has to be a factor, but also let's keep it real. Ugas is a difficult style. His punches are difficult to read in terms of how he varies his attack, especially with his jab. You can't always predict it. And he's also a very tall welterweight, especially compared to Pacquiao. So I've got to give it at least a 30% to it being a bad style matchup. But I think the majority of it, honestly, is an issue of age.
Okay. Before we go to Dave, I want to just shout out these super chats here. Thank you so much, JC. Says fire. And also Afro G saying, what's up, fellas? What's going on? So, Dave, give me your thoughts on the fight. Was it Pacquiao getting old overnight, or was this just a bad style matchup for him?
No, I definitely don't think it was a bad style matchup. I think young Pacquiao could have done so much better, if not easily have won this fight. It really is father time. That 2-year layoff did him no favor at all. He was shaking off a lot of ring rust. And that problem that he's had, the recurring issue of his calves, overdeveloped calves. He self-admitted he had a lot of leg issues, and that may have been just too much running for this fight. But I don't think a young Pacquiao would have had so much issues with this Ugas. So one thing I note, when we saw Floyd Mayweather take the exhibition match against Conor McGregor, they were both about the same age, and they stylistically in the ring, they seem to have the same ring rust.
Okay. Christine, what did you think? Was this Pacquiao getting old overnight, or was this just a bad style matchup?
I definitely don't think he got old overnight, but he did get older. It didn't happen suddenly. It's been coming. I have to agree with Dave. I think a younger Pacquiao would have definitely beat him. He's fought taller opposition. He's known for his angles, using his legs, coming around the jab, touching the body, and he couldn't get in because he couldn't move. I definitely believe that Father Time is knocking on his door, and thus the cramps and everything else that he was getting, and not being able to move and get around that jab. But I don't want to take anything away from Ugas. He did a great job. But 5 years ago, Manny would have definitely beat him.
Now we're being joined by Gail Falkenthal, the illustrious Gail Falkenthal. Gail, what did you think about this fight? Was this Pacquiao at the end of his rope, or was this just a bad style matchup? Because we know Pacquiao's had problems with this style before in the past.
All of the above, all of the above. And come on, 2 years out of the ring, over the age of 40. That's a lot of ring rust to carry. I just don't think he shook it off. Or if he thought he did it by overtraining. And Pacquiao has always been a guy who loves a crowd, loves people, and the allure of doing his runs up the Hollywood Hills, up to Griffith Park, to be greeted by a huge throng of fans. You know, I think it was a siren call for him when he should have been doing a little less road work. But we all saw video of him up there, you know, showing off, sparring, having a good time. I think it was a big distraction. And it shows every single person who watches boxing how important footwork is, that your performance starts from the ground up. There is a classic example. Manny's hands looked plenty fast. You know, his mind was calculating correctly, and his feet absolutely wouldn't move him into the proper position. And damn, how much bigger are his calves going to get? I mean, they look like they've been wrapped like 50 times around. It was just crazy looking. So, you know, it just served to diminish him just enough against Ugas's skills. And Christine, you're absolutely right. Credit to Ugas. He pulled out the perfect game plan. He executed to perfection. Credit to Ishmael Salas for putting it together on short notice. It all came together for them. Now, how's he going to fare against the other top welterweights? I don't think quite so good. So I hope he enjoys that belt while he's got it.
Okay. D, last but not least to you, what do you think?
Here's what I'll say. I do believe that the style of Ugas would give Manny Pacquiao problems at any point of his career, but I don't necessarily believe he would beat him at any point of his career, right? So I do want to say that. I don't think there's a point in his career where like Pacquiao would have stopped him, but I do believe he would have beat him anything sub Keith Thurman era and under, you know, from when he fought him. And the reason I feel that way is because 42, I don't care what anybody says, is ancient for the welterweight division. And we know that because there's never been a welterweight titleist that old, ever in the history of the sport. It's never been a thing. In fact, even the great Floyd Mayweather said by the age of 40, I'm done fighting these young guys. You guys want me to fight Crawford and these guys? I'm done. I don't want to do this. I don't want to fight real boxers anymore, he said. Do you blame him? I don't, because what starts to go away when you get older? Your reflexes. What does Manny Pacquiao depend on? A fighter like him especially. Reflexes, fast twitch muscles. The fact that Pacquiao fought at this late of an age with that style so successfully is simply amazing. That I just want to put that out there, and I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like I honestly do believe anything 2 years ago and back, I think Ugas gives him problems, but I think he handles Ugas 8 rounds to 4 type-ish fight. Now, what we have right now in boxing is boxing fans that want to play the na-na-na-na boo-boo game, right? So what happens? Oh, well, none of you were calling him old before, so I'm not going to let you do it now. Well, it's not a matter of opinion. He was old. He's 42 years old. That's not an opinion. That's a fact, right? And I get that Manny Pacquiao maybe in the past had a lot of fans that are unbearable or whatever. Which top fighter doesn't? You know what I mean? But I'm not going to play the na-na-na-na boo-boo game with the guy. I mean, he's definitely up there in age. I mean, 42 years old. How old was Ray Leonard when he got knocked out by Camacho? Right?
40.
Okay, like I'm just saying, like how old was Chavez when they said he was over the hill and he fought, you know, De La Hoya? 36. We need to put that in perspective. And by the way, do I still think he could fight? Yes, but I guess we'll talk about that.
Well, I don't want to sell Ugas short here because Ugas is no spring chicken either. He's 35 years old. He's got a lot of miles on him. He's got a long and tough amateur background as well. And I still think that left arm was injured somehow, whether it was a injury that he's dealt with his whole life and he's just been able to deal with it, and he just didn't allow it to play a factor in this fight. But I have to say, Manny Pacquiao has had problems with counterpunchers his whole career. Manny Pacquiao is a very unorthodox southpaw, which instead of moving to his right, he moves to his left, and he walks into right hands. Now, I thought Ugas, because he throws the right hand wide and really doesn't sit down on it a lot of times. He didn't sit down on it a lot in the Porter fight. He was connecting with it, but he really didn't sit down on it and throw it straight down the pike. And I thought because of that, he wouldn't get a lot of leverage and Pacquiao would be able to deal with it and keep coming forward. But he shortened up that loop a little bit and looped it just enough to get around the guard of Pacquiao and still get that leverage, because you saw that it stopped Pacquiao in his tracks. So there was a big difference in Ugas from the Porter fight into this fight, because in the Porter fight, he was hitting Porter with some quality shots, but he really wasn't landing flush like he was in this fight, and he wasn't stopping Porter in his tracks. So I thought, this was more of Ugas's shots having a greater effect. Ironically enough, I scored this fight 117 or 111 for Ugas, just as well as I scored the fight with Porter 117 and 111. So I scored them equally, and I thought Ugas did equally well in both, but I think the big difference was I thought he sat down in his shots a little bit better, and I thought that he didn't put as big of a wide loop in that right hand. So I still think, Pacquiao can fight certain welterweights, but I just think Ugas is better than we expected. And I don't want to take anything away from Ugas in this situation by just saying Pacquiao got old overnight, right? Because, this was definitely Ugas who was dialed in, and you could tell he had a great game plan. He had perfect timing for everything Pacquiao did. He was able to react and beat Pacquiao to the spots where Pacquiao wanted to be. Normally when Pacquiao uses that footwork and creates those angles, he's there and the other guy's not. Ugas met him there, right? Ugas was not a mobile guy. Now, going into this fight, I thought this was going to be a battle of quantity versus quality. And in a lot of times, we're seeing lately that the quantity is winning. And I thought the quantity may win here, but the quality was just too good in this fight for Ugas. It was just too clean, and you could see Pacquiao was having problems, and he was being stopped in his tracks, and he couldn't use his ambush in and out style. So this brings me to the next question. Should Pacquiao retire after this fight, or should he have a farewell fight? Preferably, maybe, possibly in the Philippines. Christine, what do you think?
I think that what I think is that he should retire. I know his wife's been wanting him to retire for a long time, and she even put the video out where she was feeding him because, Raging Babe tweeted something and said, unless you have really ever worked with fighters, nobody ever sees this side of it, the depression, the injuries, everything else. And I totally agree with her. And she wanted everyone to see, look, this is what I go through. She's told him she wanted him to quit. And he's, a boxer is a boxer for life. I'm sure that he's going to want, if he has to, he's going to make a deal with his wife and family and say, I need one more farewell fight, in the Philippines. And he probably will have it. But I think it's time. I was and still am a huge, huge Manny fan. I always will be. Just everything that he's done and he does for his country, just everything. And I don't want to see him get hurt, worse than, he did the other night. So I would say, yes, it's time to hang it up and pursue something else. And you know what? There's so many facets in boxing. He can do something else in boxing. Yeah, I know he's the senator now, but it's not over. There's other things he can do. But I think that he is going to want a farewell fight if that's what their plan is.
Okay. Maestro, what do you think? Should Pacquiao retire or should he have a farewell fight?
Well, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I mean, the fact that he's already a sitting, serving senator in his country and is an active fighter is already incredible. Imagine if he's the acting president of the Philippines and, between diplomatic meetings and meetings about trade and, security and all kinds of other things, he's like going to the gym to train to whoop somebody's ass while being president of the Philippines. Like, that would just be epic to me if he does that. And I've got some names lined up for some fights for him. Why don't we talk about Rustico Torrecampo, the guy that knocked him out back in 1996? Why don't we talk about Megdagoen Singsurat. Again, another guy that knocked him out in 1999. We could also go more recent. Why doesn't he get some Jeff Horn action? You know, get Jeff Horn to come down to 147, make him sweat out those last pounds. I know he struggled to make the weight in the last time he fought at the weight division, and get Jeff Horn to take his ass down to Manila, or actually up to Manila, because Australia is south of the Philippines. And Manny, as president, you know, gets to whoop his ass with his Secret Service, you know, surrounding the ring. I mean, I couldn't think of anything more gangster than that. I said this on my show. There was a time when leaders of countries were literally warriors. Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, more recently, Chairman Mao, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro. I could go on and on. We've kind of lost that a little bit in our culture, as let's be frank, like the modern leader is a statesman, you know, is very articulate. Not that none of those guys weren't articulate. They obviously were, but, you know, I'm the more of the Obama type. You know what I mean? That is what is revered as a statesman in this day and age, not the fighter that, you know, can knock you silly, if not out cold. If Manny is capable of doing this as president, I mean, the legend of Manny Pacquiao only lives on farther. Like, they'll be literally talking about Pac-Man 1,000 years from now, maybe 2,000 years from now, if he's a president that is also an active fighter that knocks people out. So, you know, you people are going to say, "Oh, Maestro, you're dreaming." Well, I mean, yeah, I am dreaming a little bit. But Joe asked me the question, and that is how I would go out if I was Manny Pacquiao. Why the hell not?
Yeah. D, are you ready to say goodbye to Manny Pacquiao, or do you want to see him fight again?
Look, I think the question is, like, can he add anything more to his legacy than what he already has? And I don't think he really can. I don't think he's going to be able to beat like a Spence or Crawford personally. So is fighting just subpar opposition? Like, if he makes Jeff Horn sweat out the pounds, is that going to add to his legacy? I just don't think so. You know, so what? I think he's already rich. Like, I don't know what the incentive is for him. Assuming, you know, he invested his money, I don't know, right? But he made a lot of money in boxing. But I don't know why he would stick around. I mean, me personally, but I'm going to watch him if he sticks around. He could still stick around. People forget, I mean, Bernard Hopkins fought till like the age of 50, right? When he was knocked out of the ring. And I don't know if he wants to reach that point when he's getting beat. Because Ugas wasn't quite that guy. Like, that guy that you say to yourself, man, he beat Pacquiao? Like, that's going to happen if he keeps fighting. You know what I mean? Where people just look at it and it's sad. And I saw that a lot with Chavez later in his career. And, you know, I don't know if I want to see Pacquiao in that state yet. Like, he lost to the champion. He lost to one of the best welterweights in the world. Come back for a swan song. That's it. But I will say this. Speaking of Bernard always found a way to let somebody beat the guy that beat him, right? And then he would swoop in, right? So he lost to Jermaine. People thought, okay, I guess that's the end of Bernard. Bernard moved up, beat Tarver, right? And then what happened when Pavlik beat Jermaine, right? He beat Pavlik, and it made up for his losses to Jermaine Tater, right? He lost to Shad Dawson, right? And then Pascal comes in, beats him, right? Because these were guys that had a style, kind of like Ugas, right? They had styles that were beating Bernard at the time. But once someone like a Pascal comes, beats Dawson, what did Bernard do? Comes back and beats him. So that's something he could do, right? If someone stylistically is tailor-made for him, beats Ugas, he probably should swoop in and beat that dude. You know what I mean? But that's what he's going to have to do. They're going to have to get better with the matchmaking if they want to continue the career of Pacquiao.
Dave, Pacquiao swan song, or do you want to see him come back again?
You know, after seeing those pictures that his wife released, it may have swayed me a little bit that it's absolutely time to hang them up. But Manny Pacquiao is such a proud person, and he absolutely deserves and merits to go out on his own terms. Now, he is contemplating a presidential bid, and there is no better way in my eyes than to have some kind of farewell fight in Manila against somebody with a big name but not a threat. It's just going to have to be that way. It's going to have to be, as you say, very carefully some good matchmaking there. Now, I follow politics a bit, and I understand that Duterte, their current president's daughter, is actually polling much higher than Manny Pacquiao. So, that being said, it's very hard understanding our own political whims here in America. But, I mean, this would be a solid way to launch his presidential campaign with a big win, a big moral victory for the Philippines against a solid name. Again, after seeing those pictures, I don't want to see him take any more punishment. He's really in that territory where at this point he's endangering his own life, his own health, physically and mentally. So I'm divided. I would like to see him leave on his terms and with a win.
Really quick, I mean, I get the point about the Jinkies feeding Pacquiao and his eyes are shut. I mean, I don't know how many people understand like what fighters go through the weeks after the fight. Like I don't know, lives like the next day or something like that. I don't know, but now I understand Manny now, because his favorite karaoke song, Look how Jinky takes care of him. Like, sometimes when we touch, the feeling just too much. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where it comes from. That there's power in that song he sings, and I felt it. I could hear him singing it, even though he wasn't singing it when I watched that video.
Well, behind every great man is an even greater woman, and Jinky's been holding it down for him for a while now. Actually, she's been holding it down for him as long as he's been a world champion, 1999. 5 beautiful children together. And you're absolutely right, Dave, about the politics. I mean, look into the history of the Marcos family in the Philippines. When you've got that name behind you in places like that, it carries a lot of weight, so it's probably the same with Duterte, but by all accounts, he's not a very good leader, unless you're into authoritarians that condone killing and executions in the streets for the crimes of smoking marijuana. That's kind of what he ran and was elected on, the law and justice kind of guy, if you consider that law or justice. But I think Manny would be great, and I'm pulling for Manny. Hopefully, I actually don't know much about his politics.
I don't know, man. I don't know anything about this dude's politics. I'm not ready to see that.
Are you going to be what are you going to be, his campaign manager, Maestro? What's going on? You want a job, brother?
You know what? I might have to go around Queens and the Bronx, both of which have significant Filipino communities, and make sure they get that overseas vote in.
I already know his campaign song too. Sometimes when we touch.
Let me find out you got a Manny Pacquiao bumper sticker on your car, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Gail, is this the end, or do we want one more to say goodbye?
Is the end.
I have been a Pacquiao fan since day one. I've got a Pacquiao glove on my keychain, and I don't want to see him again in the ring. I don't. I think it's a function of getting older as a boxing fan, seeing the damage done. These guys have a long life, hopefully, to live outside the ring when they're done. And in Manny's case, whether he's an elected official or he is simply a one-man social services agency, which he has been in the Philippines for many years, he's still got a lot to contribute to his country. Leadership doesn't necessarily only take place in elected office. But let's say he does run and win. Do we really think the Philippines equivalent of the Secret Service is going to let him go in the ring somewhere in front of all those people? Oh, hell no. Oh, my God, no. And if we think somebody's capable of taking a pot shot at him, politics is a dangerous business. It's probably more dangerous than boxing in some of these countries. He has had a falling out with Duterte. They were allies, but he's been critical of him. And it's an interesting party. The majority party they're in leans left. but Pacquiao's politics are fairly conservative. So there's a little disconnect, and the Dutertes are trying to game the system. In the Philippines, you can only serve for president 1 6-year term. That's it. Well, vice president and president run separately. So the idea is the daughter runs for president, the current president runs for vice president. It's going to be messy. But I see no percentage in Manny, if he's serious about politics, going back in the ring, unless he decides to get to one of these, big money legends Triller fights, right? And I'd be okay with something like that. And, let's say De La Hoya wins his upcoming exhibition and can shave off another 10 or 15 pounds, maybe, and not be a cruiserweight.
Don't say it.
I'll let you all say it in your minds, but something of that nature. Or you know what? Put Eric Morales and Pacquiao in the ring. Eric's maintained a little better control of his physique. Have him fool around and have a good time and get a big payday. Manny has given away a lot of his paychecks in the last decade. He has built more schools, more hospitals, more affordable housing in the Philippines than the actual government. And that's why the people love him. And there is no reason he can't serve them in that way without risking his health and his future in the ring by getting decked. Don't we all feel grateful that Errol Spence didn't stand there across from the version we saw? He would have flattened him. It would have been awful.
That's the next question, Gail. That's the next one.
Well, maybe he could fight a Sombat Machamek, who, if you guys don't know, is like a very revered Muay Thai guy in one of these kind of crossover fights. That would be probably really big in Southeast Asia. I believe he's around 40 years old.
Yeah, anything like that, but not a straight up championship fight for all the marbles, because he'll lose his marbles.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nando Lamos, for the super chat. He says, "Salutas to the HCP panel and chat," and I second that. Thank you so much for the chat. Thank you for all your comments. Thank you for joining us today. Please hit the like button. Helps us out. Get the video in circulation. Helps out the algorithm. Okay, so let me chime in here. I still don't want to take anything away from Ugas. Obviously, this is not the best version of Manny Pacquiao. Everyone gets old. You're not the same at 42 as you were at 32. That's without question, right? But I'm still interested to see Pacquiao in there with somebody else that doesn't have this type of style. I want to see him in there with, call me crazy, I wouldn't mind seeing him in there with the Josh Taylor. I think that would be an interesting fight. I think Josh Taylor would come at him. I think there'd be opportunities for him there. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him go down to 140, and I'd like to see that fight. I think that fight is very intriguing, No. So I think if he couldn't do that, at least have a farewell fight. Go out on a high note. Why not? Go back to the Philippines, fight, someone that is suitable to your style, that could complement your style, and just go out on a high note. I don't have any problem with that. So this brings me to the next question, as Gail brought it up. With this version of Pacquiao, I'm not saying would he have won against Errol Spence, but would he have lasted? Would he have gone the distance against Errol Spence, or would he have been stopped? D-Style, what do you think, brother?
I'm watching Gail kind of imagine the fight. Yeah. She's not saying anything, but she's imagining like a massacre, like, you know what I mean? But so I already know what she said. but I actually believe he would have done better against Spence. And I know people are like, what? And let me tell you why. The best weapon against Manny Pacquiao is a right hand. Whether it's Floyd, whether it's Marquez and Ugas in this case, right? What do people always say? Now, do I think they overstated? Absolutely. But they always say, oh, man, he's a sucker for a right hand. He can't do anything against a right hand. All you're telling me when you see a fighter get hit with one punch is that he's obviously doing a good job against the other weapon, the left hand, right? Spence is a lefty, right? That straight left, maybe he would have made it work, but I don't know if he would have. Hooks don't work very well against Pacquiao. Now, the jab was going to give Pacquiao problems, period. Spence is an excellent jab, right? But I don't know how Spence was going to deal with who was and would be the best southpaw he's ever faced in Manny Pacquiao. Like, I can't even think of the last southpaw he faced, right? So, We've always said this. I mean, he does very well against left-hand dominant fighters. He does. He historically has. And because of that, I'm not saying he would have won, but I think he would have done better. I honestly believe that. And let me add this caveat. The one that's lucky that the fight didn't happen was Spence. His retina was detached. If his retina was detached and he got hit by Manny Pacquiao, that dude would have been a one-eyed dude. And it don't have to land on the eye. You could hit him in the head, your head rattles, and it could have gotten more detached. We might have seen blood coming out of that eye socket. And that could have been extremely dangerous. So in the hypothetical, the way you asked it would be if there was no detached retina, like I get it, but the reality is there was a detached retina, right? The reality was that if he got away with it and managed to get in that ring last Saturday night, and Spence gets hit. I mean, it's not like a defensive wizard himself. So he would have gotten hit, and who knows, Pacquiao might have pulled it off.
Yeah. Shout out to Afro G. Says, I think Taylor's speed would be too much for Pac. Possibly. Gil, I know you're chopping at the bit. Let us know what you think about this. And doesn't seem like you're too enthused about this fight, and you're glad that it didn't happen.
I am glad it didn't happen. I get it that fighting another southpaw is a different story. But the one thing we didn't talk about to this point is how often Ugas hit Pacquiao with body shots. He quadrupled, I think, the number of landed body shots. I think it was 34-7 around that area. And he is damn lucky that Ugas didn't have more power on those body shots, because that alone should have taken him down. If an Errol Spence hits him to the body, and I get it, would have to be the left hand to the liver, but still, I think he's in a world of hurt if that happens. And no matter whether he faced Ugas or Spence, the problem for Pacquiao was the lack of movement. I mean, he was literally like a tree rooted to the ground in comparison to what we've come to expect from his footwork. His whole genius is his ability to move and punch from unusual angles, and it was completely taken away from him. So I don't think he fares any better against Spence, despite Spence being a southpaw. If he can't move away, he can't move. And that's a problem, especially with somebody with more power than Ugas, which, not to take away from him, but he's not a power puncher, and Spence is, especially in comparison to Ugas.
Christine, what are your thoughts? Do you think Pacquiao would have made?
Gail took the words right out of my mouth. The same. Ugas touched him so many times in the body. He couldn't move. He couldn't work his angles. His shots that come from everywhere, like she said, he couldn't do it. Spence is so much stronger than Ugas. Not taking anything away from him, but he is. It's a fact. And then seeing the Manny that we saw that night, he would have stopped him. He definitely would have stopped him. It wouldn't have gone the distance. He would have shot. He would have hit the body. He would have stopped him at the body, and it would have been worse than it was. There's no way that he could have gotten away from those body shots, because he didn't. He couldn't get away from Ugas's body shots. Exactly. I mean, exactly what I was thinking the whole time. I'm glad he didn't fight him. I really am. I'm sorry for Spence. I'm praying that he has a 100% recovery. I've known other boxers that have had to retire because of the same injury, and I'm hoping that he's going to be good, because he's very talented. He's still young, and he's got a lot of fights ahead of him if it be that way, if he's okay. But yeah,
Gail and Christine, he had a detached retina.
Right.
Like Pacquiao, as soon as he hit him in the head, that eye is
I mean,
done. I just want to know what y'all think about that.
That was going to be my main point. I mean,
Go ahead,
you
Maestro.
got to separate Errol Spence Jr. from Errol Spence Jr. with a torn / detached retina. I don't care who you are.
About that, this is
if
not
you're
new news. He knew.
Yeah.
He knew. He's been sparring and he's been doing his thing. He knew. Absolutely, he knew.
Yeah, he might have. He might have known he had an eye issue, but there's a difference between having an eye that's bad and then, experiencing not literally, but the straw that breaks the camel's back, and now having an eye that's totally non-functional, at least for the purposes of prize fighting. I don't care who the guy is. If you were fighting with one eye, and even at a 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao, is going to be a lot of problems for you. Now, do I think Errol Spence Jr., the healthy Errol Spence Jr., is trouble for Pac-Man? 100%. And I'm going to agree with all of the reasons you gave. He's a good body puncher. He's got a good jab. He's sturdy. And he's also great. I think I said he's a great body puncher. So he's got all those intangibles, and he's a southpaw. And while Manny, I do believe, was undefeated against southpaws prior to this fight, I do believe, people can correct me if I'm wrong, his last fight against the southpaw was David Diaz. How long ago was that? So it's not like he's had a lot of experience fighting southpaws, let alone above 135 pounds. So you're talking about not just a southpaw, but a big southpaw in his prime that is a world champion holding 2 belts. That's the thing. But I think Manny, I'm going to just say, I think he stops Errol Spence Jr., at least the Errol Spence Jr., with a detached retina.
Yeah. Dave, before I go to you, I'm going to just jump in. And here's the thing. Now, boxers are required to have that yearly eye exam. And it was just so happens, luckily, his eye exam was due before this Pacquiao fight. Now, if that eye exam was not due, he was going to go through with this fight. People think Sugar Ray Leonard had that detached retina against Tommy Hearns. Not correct. He had that several months before. He was getting hit in the eye, and he was saying to Jenks Morton, his trainer, my eye's kind of bothering me, but he attributed that just because he was getting hit in the eye and the eye was swelling up. He thought that was because he was getting damaged. He had no idea his retina was detached. And then not even after the Hearns fight, he had another fight after the Hearns fight. Then he started getting the curtain vision. So that's when it's at its worst, when you have that curtain, when the retina actually detaches and it flaps down and it blankets the vision, right? So Spence had every intention of going through with this fight because I'm sure he felt something, but he said to himself, I can deal with it and go through with it, right? Yeah. And as the fight wore on, I think it would have gotten worse, and I think he would have had problems. Gil made a phenomenal point with the body shots. But, again, Pacquiao is moving to his right. He's moving away from the power of the southpaw. Spence, not as good defensively as Ugas. You got to understand, Sean Porter he landed only 18% of his shots against Ugas. The guy is hard to hit clean. Spence can get touched. And we also have to think, is this going to be the best version of Spence moving forward? He didn't look good in that Garcia fight, the Danny Garcia. Go ahead. You want to say something, Christine? Oh, okay.
No, it's not. It won't be the best version.
Yeah. So, I think Ugas can beat Spence right now, in my opinion. That could be a stretch. I know people can say this is the halo effect, but I just think that Ugas is so good defensively, and he's so accurate with his counter punches. And, Spence is so aggressive, doesn't have the fastest feet in the world. He's not the fastest guy in the world. And he's a great boxer. He knows how to thread the needle with those shots. He knows how to place those shots perfectly. He knows how to come forward. He can tuck his chin. He can get under those shots. He knows how to make himself a comeback target when he's on the inside. He knows how to fight on the inside. He's a very good inside fighter. But he takes shots when he's on the way in. If you go back and look at that Porter fight, Porter, who was an ambush fighter, just like Pacquiao, in and out, quick feet. He had problems in that Porter fight a little bit. He didn't do as good as we anticipated, right? So I think style-wise, this would be a better matchup for Pacquiao. And I don't even think this is the best version of Spence. And I don't even think possibly we will ever see that Spence from that Brook fight. He's had some issues making weight, right? Talking about moving up to junior middleweight already. He's been walking around at like as high as 185, 190 pounds. I don't want to say anything bad about Spence, but the alcohol issue is still looming. We don't know what's going on with that. That's been a problem. We don't know if there's a residual effect from that car accident. And he even said before that, after that Danny Garcia fight, he said that was one of my, I wasn't right for that camp. That was one of my worst camps ever. So can he ever have a great camp? They're saying he was getting banged up in sparring. I don't want to put too much in the sparring, but I mean, if you're having a bad day every day in camp, I mean, that could be a problem. So I still think that Pacquiao would have done better against Spence than he did against Ugas. I just think that this was a different style of a fight for him. I really do. Dave, what are your thoughts?
There's so much you guys that I agree with. How many people here and in the chat probably think that if Spence wanted to press the issue, he could have knocked out Mikey Garcia? So knowing what I know about that eye injury going into it, and the fact that he's looked lackluster to me since that car accident. I don't think the scorecard would have been much different than the Ugas scorecard. I think Manny would have absolutely have gone the distance. Maybe 8 rounds for Spence, 4 to Manny. I feel like Spence, many ways when Pacquiao fought Oscar De La Hoya, knowing what he knew going into that fight, and when after he was interviewed, he said, this is my hero, and he took his foot off the gas, and he didn't really want to beat up Oscar anymore. Even a healthy Spence, I think, would have some sort of pity to carry Pacquiao because this was a pay-per-view fight, a legacy fight. I don't think he would have had malicious intent to beat him up. But again, with that, knowing what I know about that eye injury, I don't think the scorecard would have been much different. I think Manny Pacquiao would have lasted the entire fight.
Yeah.
I just, if I may, I want to know if Gail and Christine are having second thoughts, or if they think that the detached retina would have been a problem for Spence. Maybe not. I don't know.
I personally am not having second thoughts. Something else that a boxer needs is that dog, that mean, that, because you can be the best boxer in the world, you can be whatever, but if you don't have that dog in you, you're not going to finish, the way somebody else would that has that dog. I've seen Errol Spence, down and out and then come back and dig deep and that dog comes out. And he wants to prove everybody wrong. He's been in this accident. People are like, oh, he's not the same. His last fight, he was saying, I need a nutritionist. I need a strength and conditioning coach now. I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to show people that, I can do better. He had a lot to prove to himself and to others in his mind. And he does have that dog. I think that he would have just thugged it out, and his eye could have been whatever, hanging, shut, whatever. And I think he would have gone to prove his point.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Now, there was the change of the opponent. Obviously, everyone wanted to see the Spence fight. But to me, there was still a little bit of buzz around the fight with Ugas because it was Pacquiao. Mainstream media was kind of talking about it. How do you guys think the pay-per-view did? I'm going to start with Maestro. Do you think this fight did some respectable numbers, or do you think it may have tanked?
I do not. From what I understand about pay-per-view, people really buy it the day of the fight, mostly. I know I do. I don't buy pay-per-views like a week or 2 weeks or a month in advance. And the honest truth about this is they actually didn't even open up the sale of the pay-per-view until a couple days before the fight anyways. I know because I did a live show where in real time I was on the PBC website trying to buy the pay-per-view, and the first thing that popped up was a big photo of Chris Arreola fighting Andy Ruiz Jr. from months ago. So that right there just tells you that this wasn't being promoted very well. If the week of the fight, you go to the PBC website and the main feature is not the weekend's pay-per-view, but a pay-per-view from months ago that quite honestly was a fight that I didn't think should have even been on pay-per-view, but that's another story and I digress. So no, I mean, you had fans that were looking forward to Pacquiao taking on a 2-belt world champion, an undefeated guy in Errol Spence Jr., a guy that most people have as either their number 1 or number 2 welterweight, versus now Pacquiao taking on a guy who, quite frankly, most people, even those who cover the sport of boxing, don't really care too much about or have not really focused on very much in Yordenis Ugas. You know, I thought he'd be, I mean, to me, like his biggest accomplishment was losing a fight that at least I felt he won against Sean Porter. This is not a blockbuster name. It's not a guy who was known for being in like wars, you know. It just is what it is. So once I factor in the poor promotion, the last minute change / downgrade of opponent in most people's eyes, you know, it leads me to think that no, this wouldn't have done very well on pay-per-view. And those who did buy it purchased it like I did, thanks to D-Style, because he convinced me that, yo, this is a worthwhile price, worthwhile pay-per-view, because it could be Manny's last fight. And that's why I bought it. But I don't think that's enough to make it a blockbuster event.
It's ironic because I didn't buy it, but
oh, there you go. I paid the money for it. And I'm going to be paying to watch Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley, and we'll get into that later.
Thank you, D-Style, for the super chat. Always appreciated. Dave, how do you think this fight did on pay-per-view? Do you think there was a buzz around this fight?
On pay-per-view, I don't think it's going to show or pan out that it did that well because of the late last-minute replacement, because of the poor marketing. In fact, I heard more radio ads for the Gervonta Davis fight here in Northern California. I actually heard radio ads for that pay-per-view. So I'm going to guess it probably did somewhere between 500,000 and 750K.
Wow.
But I want to say this about, because I grew up in the Bay Area and I grew up with a lot of Filipino-American friends, his fan base, I have to pay tribute to Manny's fan base, because while the pay-per-view may have not done well, amidst a COVID outbreak that's rocking Las Vegas, you know, he still managed to sell out the T-Mobile Arena, 18,000 screaming fans. And regardless of the opponent change, many people who had booked vacations did not cancel their vacations, did not sell their tickets on the secondary market. They were going to go see Manny Pacquiao fight against whoever it was. You know, knowing that this may be his last fight, 18,000 screaming fans still showed up at the T-Mobile Arena. So credit to the great Filipino-American community in the United States.
D, is Manny Pacquiao still a pay-per-view star?
well, if he sells 250,000, I mean, he's balling, right?
That's the new bar, right?
That's the new bar. No, but here's what I'll say. Just sub of 450, I think, is what he sold. A couple of things. He was coming off a spectacular fight with Keith Thurman, of course, 2 years ago, but still, you know what I mean? Which did about 600,000 or so. Before that, he did about 400,000 with, you know, Broner. And during the Broner fight, like, there was really no buzz behind Manny anymore, you know, but it still sold 400,000. So I'm going to guess around 450,000, just shy of that is my guess. Okay?
Really,
I don't know. But
really quick, D-Style. I think number one, Adrian Broner has a big fan base, whether we like his antics or not. And number two, Thurman was an undefeated welterweight champion. Ugas is a guy who has already lost 5 times, and that's what fans see when they buy a pay-per-view.
Okay, but it's not true that Broner has this big fan base. I don't know about that. His last fight did atrocious on Showtime, atrocious numbers. And it's always been like a mystery to me when people say he has a big fan base. When did he really have a big fan base? Like he
When
didn't
he-
do
They're just
like
not trying to
like
pay
he
When
wasn't
he-
an
when he-
outlier when it
Twitter.
came to ratings in
when he fought, you're talking about when he fought his last fight.
Name me a
that's-
fight
that's
night
way-
like they.
I'll give
outside
you
of
one right
Ohio.
now. I'll tell you
Go.
one that took place right here in New York City. I mean, Paulie Malignaggi versus Adrian Broner was a relatively big event, at least here. I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers were, but
Polish
there
in
was
New York.
there were a lot of people interested in that fight.
All right. So look, I'm going to say 450 based on my calculations, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to find out who's right and who's wrong, right? But I'll bet you $5 super chat. You know what I mean? There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Christine,
You're in Texas. How did Marcos Maidana Adrian Broner fight do? I remember it doing pretty well.
He never did extraordinary pay-per-views. Like Arturo Gotti got bigger ratings than Adrian Broner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's not surprising.
Broner was in
no.
an era where we just weren't getting high ratings anymore on HBO. Like it's the truth, but that's just how I feel.
Christine, do you think there was a buzz around this fight? Did you get that big fight feeling about this fight? Because
No, I don't think. I mean, I'm not a numbers girl, so I can't shoot out any numbers. But I don't think that it did as well as it would have. And actually, myself and a bunch of family and friends were actually going to Vegas and to see possibly Manny's last fight, and we canceled and we just got it and had a little watch party. But I don't think that for people that aren't boxing heads or even some boxing heads purchased it. I mean, I don't think that there was much of a buzz, and I don't think that they did well, but I'm just guessing.
yeah, Gail, is Manny Pacquiao still a superstar at the box office?
Well, the relative level of what we consider a pay-per-view star has absolutely shifted. D-Style, I'm right with you on the numbers. 450, 425. But anymore, that's considered a great result. Now, 5, 10 pre-streaming years ago, we would have needed to see 1 million to have it pencil out as being a big buy. We don't think those numbers anymore. I am sure it did much better overseas, much better in Asia. I do think it did very well in Southern California, where he's got a huge fan base. And I often have a little bit of a focus group around me when casual fans ask me about fights. And it's fascinating to me what they ask me about. And they did ask me about Pacquiao. So what about this fight? So what's going on? What do you think? When I'm asked proactively without bringing it up and boring everybody I know, that tells me there is a buzz, or at least it's on their consciousness. And I got several text messages later in the evening from people that said, oh my God, is it true that he lost? Who weren't watching, but they were aware. So I think it did relatively well in today's environment with today's numbers. But, the days of, million plus buys are very rare anymore. Truly.
Yeah.
So it's a difference. We're in a different universe right now.
By the way, really quick, this is the first fight Manny Pacquiao's had on pay-per-view during the pandemic. And some might say, oh, well, that means that it's less buys. I don't know. I think more people have to stay home. Less people are gathering together, right? So instead of people getting together in one home to watch a fight, they're staying in their houses, which means more buys. So we might be surprised. It might do more than 450. Who knows?
Well, the other test that we should look at is the betting line. And, Manny's fans always storm the sports books in Las Vegas. They really pushed the numbers betting on Manny. So the sports books were all very, very happy at the end of last weekend because, the money was all on Manny. His fans put their money where their mouth is. And they do travel. They were in force in Las Vegas. And if you looked at the hotel bookings, it was a busy weekend in Las Vegas, and you had SummerSlam going on as well. but there was not a room to be had in town if you were looking last minute. So that tells me there was plenty of money involved. It's not just the pay-per-view. Las Vegas needed a fight of that nature, needed a full house at T-Mobile, and needed all that money pouring into the sports books. And they did get those things from Manny.
Yeah. Shout out to Maestro Boxing. Thank you so much, brother. Following the debate between Nando Lamas and Chicano Prophet and G Funky, I like the back and forth. Always fun in the chat. People battling it out. Gil made a great point. And I use this a lot too as a barometer of how big a fight is. When people talk about boxing that normally don't talk about boxing, to me, and I'm getting text messages and I'm being asked questions, I'm saying to myself, there's a little bit of buzz behind this because this is Manny Pacquiao. I mean, Manny Pacquiao still has that big name, right? And people are still interested in him. And there's a lot of Filipinos that live in America and they support him. He's got a big Hispanic fan base as well too. So he's reached out to a lot of different ethnic backgrounds in America, right? And ironically enough, when the whole thing with Floyd Mayweather was being talked about, the build up to that fight, more people were supporting Manny Pacquiao than they were Floyd Mayweather. And Manny Pacquiao was not an American fighter, right? So that's astonishing in itself. So I'm going to say this did about 450,000, maybe 500,000 pay-per-view buys. I think that's not out of the realm of possibility to think that. And in this streaming era, that's good numbers in my opinion. It's a lot better than 250,000. I'll tell you that. All right, we're going to switch gears. Enough Manny Pacquiao. Let's talk about Terrence Crawford and Sean Porter. We found out that WBO is ordering that fight, and it's going to go to purse bids. But interestingly, I think about 2 weeks ago, I was reading the boxing headlines, and I found out that the WBO is going to be broadcasting the purse bid live on their Facebook page, on I think Facebook Live on September 2nd. And when I saw this, I kind of said to myself, this reminds me of WrestleMania 3 when Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan were fighting and they were signing the contract and it was like on one of the WWE shows or WWF back then, and they were broadcasting it live. And I'm saying, like, so what is this now? Boxing's turning into a circus? We talk about how boxing has what's called I'm going to coin the phrase that Steve Kim likes to use. Fanagers. I think he came up with that word. And boxing fans are talking more about the business side, and they're all of a sudden becoming managers and fanagers, as Steve Kim likes to say, and accountants. And this kind of just feeds right into that, right? We're going to have an auction live about with two boxers on Facebook, right? And then you could say, well, Beeb, the NFL, they broadcast the draft, and the NBA does the same thing. Yeah, but do they broadcast the negotiations between a player and a team? No. That's behind the door. That's behind the door business. So to me, this is kind of like a little bit bizarre. It's odd. It's kind of like a circus to me. D, what do you think of this? Is this kind of right out of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey?
I mean, I find it funny, right? I mean, we are I'm kind of surprised it took so long. We're in the age of streaming. We're in the age of, it's so easy. Anybody could just get their phone and stream it. Like, it's kind of amazing to me that we still have like fights that there's no footage of. Like, what do you mean there's no footage? So with today's technology, you could get footage of anything. Like, do it on your smartphone and put it out there. So, I don't know if I'm like, I guess what is it? It's gonna feel like a live auction, I guess. Like, ooh, let's see what Top Rank's gonna say. Like, ooh, 2 million from Top Rank. Oh man, PBC out here with a $3 million offer. Oh man, what's going on? Trilla shows up with Snoop Dogg with $6 million. What do you got? So it's gonna be interesting. I don't know exactly how they do it, so it's gonna be interesting to see it. I have an idea how bids work. I just never seen it for a boxing fight. Just watching different networks and just to see how it goes down. Is Bob Arum going to be there, like yelling at Eddie Hearn if he outbids him? Like, hey, I'm not gonna forget what you did. Like I'm just like, what? Eddie didn't even win the thing. It was Triller, bro, but he was mad at him because he outbid him anyway. He told him, I'm not going to forget. Yeah, I don't want to do like Bob Arum telling me I ain't forget about this shit. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want that. No way. So it's going to be interesting. You know what I mean? How much is the Bob father going to put out for this fight? How much is PBC going to put out for this fight? Is the Zone going to be in the mix? Are they going to throw? Is Trilla going to be in the mix? We're going to find out. So get your popcorn ready, ladies and gentlemen. It might be more fun in the fight itself.
Dave, what are your thoughts on this? Are you interested in this? Is this a circus or what?
Well, I think it is a circus, but I'm absolutely intrigued. And I think the whole Trilla fiasco that you just mentioned with Teofimo Lopez has maybe sparked the interest of boxing fans even more so. I think I'm definitely going to tune into it. I'm excited to see the behind the scenes auction. Who's going to be the voice of the auction? Is it David Diamante? Who's doing it? Who's doing that portion of it? But I think in the back of Bob Arum's mind, maybe he wants to put it out there to see. He wants everyone to know what is the market value on Terrence Crawford. He wants to maybe publicly shame him if it's low and say, "Hey, told you I was right. He's not that interesting, and I'm not gonna renew my contract with him this year because really, the market value for this fight is low." So, but again, I don't know. I'm intrigued to watch that. I think it's something new. Yes, it's a bit of a circus, but boxing has been a circus in 2021. But I will be watching that. I think it's definitely interesting. Now, guys, thank you so much for having me. I have to bounce out. It's always a pleasure. I know we're approaching almost a year anniversary being here on the Roundtable. I wanted to give a shout out to my show, The Shoe Shine, on Monday nights after G Funky's show. And if you didn't catch my show, a person that we had on the panel, my friend Francisco Esparza from Las Vegas. We're talking retirement. We're talking welterweights. He had to retire because he had a negative MRI scan after just signing a contract with Top Rank. And only in his mid-20s had to hang them up. And within 18 months, he found himself as lead trainer to Alma Ibarra from Monterrey, Mexico, and has secured on Friday night, she won and puts herself in position to be the mandatory for Jessica McCaskill welterweight women's champion. In just his first fight, he went from being a boxer who had to hang them up in his 20s to being a trainer who's looking at a world championship fight undisputed. So shout out to my friend Francisco and, of course, Alma Ibarra, and to you guys, the Roundtable, for keeping boxing out there, man. I appreciate all of you guys. Have a great night, guys.
Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Peace, guys.
Brother.
Take care, David.
All
Mr.
right.
408 himself.
Gail, is this a circus what the WBO is doing, or is this going to be entertaining?
Oh, for Pete's sake, when has boxing not been a circus? I mean, where y'all been?
You probably started in the circus.
Yeah. Oh, please. My expectations for the entertainment value of this is fairly low. We're not going to have Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum, Ryan Kavanaugh sitting around a table. It's going to be their CFOs and lawyers. That's it. Anonymous guys in dark suits that we don't know. All being very quiet, civilized, pushing little pieces of paper toward each other. There's going to be no drama. There will be news, I'm sure, but I don't think there's going to be any fireworks or drama whatsoever. I do think there's every possibility that somebody like Eddie Hearn swoops in to get this fight. He has no piece of Canelo's next fight. His only fight on the books worth any money is Joshua and Usyk. I think that between DAZN and Matchroom, they've got some budget for this. I don't really see what Bob Arum gains from seeing a low bid for Crawford. And, he's stabbing himself in the heart if that happens. He's the one that looks like the loser. I think that's foolish. So I don't think there will be quite the dramatic storyline everyone thinks there's going to be. But I do think everyone should expect some surprises coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's really quick. I think the thing he has to gain is, and I'm not even saying he's right for this, but I think it's his ego, because this is the same dude that came out to the media and told him, "I'm not making any money with this guy. I'm losing money." So he might just use it to show that he's right.
I mean, whose fault is that? You can blame the fighter all you want, But come on, he should have a crew in place to sell Crawford. He should have folks working with Crawford to, you know, if you encounter Crawford one-on-one, especially away from the few days leading up to fight week, he is perfectly genial. He is perfectly willing to talk. It's their fault for not positioning him correctly. You know, my business outside of boxing is doing exactly that for clients. And it's my job as the professional to position them correctly, to work with them, to educate them, and put their best assets under the spotlight. And Bud's got them. It's Top Rank's fault that they haven't worked with him to make that happen. So, you know, Bob, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Yep.
Christine, are you going to be watching this with bated breath?
You know, I don't know about with bated breath, but I am going to be watching. You know, yes, boxing has been a circus, but here recently we've seen some crazy things like YouTube guys fighting and this and that, new things that have been going on, and this is something else that we're adding to that. And I want to see how it's going to play out. Is this going to entice more people to watch and possibly watch the fight, or not? You know, and I'm going to watch. I want to know what's going on. I do believe it's going to be a little boring, but I'm going to be there. You know, and I totally agree. You know, Bud is amazing. He's sellable. He's marketable. He's everything. And definitely Bob has to blame himself for that. And I think this is going to show Bob that people do want to see Crawford. They want to see him in the ring. They want to see him with these big fights. And I'm excited for it. You know, I really am. I'm going to be tuned in. I have it in my calendar, and I'm going to be watching.
Yeah. Guys, make sure you like the video. It helps out the channel, helps out the video, helps out everybody. So just like the video, guys. We got a lot of people in the chat. Make sure you like the video. Maestro, is this going to be on your calendar next week?
You know, I don't know if it's going to be on my calendar because, you know, I'm getting back to work. I've been having to go in for orientations and stuff like that.
You sound too excited now. You know?
Well, you know, I have been on summer holiday, so to speak. But look, I kind of see this as the development that occurred. I think it was like in the 1970s or 80s, I forget, but before I have a memory of it. But I have seen documentaries on it about the shift towards covering court cases on television, especially criminal court cases. That hadn't been the case. I remember when I was a little kid and there was the O.J. Simpson trial on TV, and, you know, people were glued to their screens to watch what were very procedural and otherwise boring day-to-day kind of occurrences inside a courtroom. But because of the drama surrounding the case, people found it to be exciting. So, you know, is a purse bid a relatively boring thing? Yes, of course it is. But is the fight and the fact that it is part of a larger story more interesting? I think it is. And I think just off of that, people will want to watch it. So that's one thing. The other thing I will say about the coverage is that, you know, the old saying is that the sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, you know, and boxing, perhaps more than any other sport, is oftentimes viewed as, you know, a sport where all these terrible things are happening in the shadows and, you know, we don't know what's going on. And, oh, well, this has been faked and that was a setup and there was this backroom deal between promoters or whatever. Like, allowing the fans into that, I don't see it being negative in any way. And I see it kind of being positive in that, you know, it opens up people to the process, a process that oftentimes, I mean, check out the boards, check out some of these ridiculous content creators on YouTube, right? It kind of sets the record straight and enlightens people as to how these processes work. So I don't really have a big problem with it at all. If you want to watch it, you're going to watch it. If you don't want to watch it, you're not going to watch it. And if you do watch it, you'll probably learn something if you didn't know anything about purse bids and the purse bid process.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like C-SPAN, where they're just like doing it and the camera's on, or
Yeah,
is
like
it going to be
Court
like a
TV.
show? It's going to be
Court
like,
TV.
yo, welcome to the purse bid, like with Snoop Dogg. I don't know, like how are they going to do it?
I think it will be more like C-SPAN or Court TV, and then you'll have somebody. I forget the lady's name. Is it Nancy something, or who explains what has happened?
Nancy Grace. Oh my
Nancy
Lord.
Grace. There you go. There you go.
It looks like Top Rank has bid $2.1 million for the fight. We're about to find out how PBC will do. They are next. Like what is that? Is that what it's going to be?
Well, that's not how I would do it. If I was doing a live stream coverage of it, I'd throw that shit up on the split screen on my channel, and I'd give it a little bit more entertainment value than that. You know.
Enthusiasm.
You gotta give it some enthusiasm. You gotta troll the suckers that are all over YouTube too. I told you this wasn't fixed.
Watching professional poker in C-SPAN. I think it'll hit right in the middle of the two.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I was concerned when I first heard the news of this purse bid, and I was saying to myself, I hope Porter does not withdraw from the fight, because he's not gonna like the money that's on the table, because he's already complained about the money that was offered to him for this fight before. But then Gail made a great point about Eddie Hearn, and Eddie Hearn's got a good amount of that DAZN money, and he's been paying top dollar for fights. And besides that Joshua fight, right, there's not much going on over there in DAZN, right? So this would be a great addition to their calendar, this fight, because Canelo's not, he's going to be on PBC with Caleb Plant. So that's another DAZN fight that is not going to be there. So I think the environment and the stage is set for Eddie Hearn, as Gail said, to swoop right in and win this purse bid. And if he does do that, I think that he can come up with enough money to make Sean Porter happy, and he won't withdraw from this fight, because that was my biggest concern is, Porter over at PBC, because I hate to, be a negative Nelly here, but these PBC fighters, they're just hard to make fights with. We've seen it.
Negative Nelly.
Yeah, negative Nelly.
Come on,
negative,
man. What did Nelly do
Negative
to you, bro? Nelly had some hits. Nelly had some hits back in the day, Joe.
Oh, he did have that horrible performance for
Remember Little House on the Prairie?
Nelly had some hits. Come on, don't hate on Nelly. St. Louis. We got a lot of boxers from St. Louis. We got a lot of boxers from St. Louis, Joe.
All I want to say is this, Porter. All right, it's a purse bid. So you can't complain if there's not enough money. PBC's in the purse bid too. Okay? They can bid too. So if you're your own boss and you got the money, then tell Heyman to show up.
I don't think PBC can bid, D-Style. I don't think they can bid because they're not a promotional company.
They can. They can.
Well,
it's not going to be called PBC. It's going to be called Boxing Champions.
It's called TTB. Yeah,
it's PBC dark money to a de facto promoter, and you know that. Come on, stop. Okay, everybody knows they're a promoter.
I think we need to just set the record straight, D-Style. This is hashtag HCP. We got to keep things clear. That's all I'm saying.
Nelly's from Little House on the Prairie. She's that brat that always used to give Laura a hard time. That's why I use that term, negative.
Centurion Sun is mentioning Nelly Furtado. She had some hits too. Shout out to Vancouver, British Columbia.
How about Porter Promotions? Can they bring out more money or what? Like more money than Top Rank? You want to complain what Top Rank is offering? How about Porter Promotions? Oh, you don't got money? Okay, too bad.
Porter Promotions is getting outbid. And so is Top Rank. They don't throw up strong bids. The thing is, Eddie
Hearn, he might have something in him.
Eddie Hearn is playing with DAZN money, and they got deep pockets, and they got a lot of subscriptions that lead to a lot of upfront cash. So
can I bid? Can I just throw $10 in there just to kind of
I think you need to be an official promoter, but maybe we should get our promoter's license. HCP promotion.
What about Don King? Is Don King still in the mix? At his age, or is he over the hill like a Manny Pacquiao? He's over the hill.
He's definitely over the hill. Did you see the shit show that was Bermain Stavern against Trevor Bryant? I mean, it's over for him.
Hey, Christy Martin helped him out with that card. You know what I mean? He needed help. That's the state of
Where's Roy Jones Jr. boxing? Roy Jones, calling Roy.
He's on UFC Fight Pass.
That's right.
Who
Get
the
in on
fuck has
that.
that? I don't have Fight Pass, and I'm a hardcore head.
Can UFC bid? Like, can they bid? Like, you imagine? But I don't know.
Well, Dana White was supposed to have his own promotional company. I don't know what happened to that.
Whatever the hell that was.
And then he found out he actually has to pay the fighters, and he's like, "What? I got to give him more than 50%?"
Yeah, let me just throw some random fights up on my Fight Pass.
World of Boxing, Rubinsky could bid for all we know.
Well, that's a good one. He's got pockets.
Yeah, he does.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, and if DAZN bids, Eddie Hearn, DAZN bids, and Porter says, "I'm out," they say, "Great, Mr. Ortiz Jr., come on down."
Whoa,
that's right.
There you go,
that's right.
Gail.
He'll be
Gail's
waiting
on
in
the money.
wings. He'll be waiting in the wings, and I'm sure he'll scoop that
bet
fight
he
right
will.
up.
Remember the answer: will you fight? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's all he needed to say.
Yeah.
Now he might be biting off more than he could chew, but I say take that big bite, son. It'll be good for you.
Yep. Yeah. Either way, it's a win-win for him. But
it is a win-win.
Yeah.
All right. So before I head off to this next topic, I want to give a shout out to HCP and D-Style Boxing for having Christy Martin on several times. And one of the topics that she talked about was her Netflix documentary, The Untold Deal with the Devil. And she talked about how she was laying it all out there, putting everything on the table, leaving no stone unturned. And there was a lot of things in this documentary that I did not anticipate being in it. She went deep, and no one really knew beforehand how much pain this woman and how hard the struggle was for her just to get through life, not only boxing, but just life, right? Boxing is secondary when you're dealing with all the other outside stuff, right? And I have to say, back in the 90s, I was very skeptical about women's boxing. But once I saw Christy Martin fight, all that skepticism was gone. She is solely responsible for getting me into women's boxing, because when I saw her fight and I saw how entertaining she was, I said to myself, women really can fight.
Bro, Layla Ali said the same thing, fam.
Yeah. So I have to give her credit, not just me, but a lot of people. She's the first female fighter that comes to mind when they think of the sport, right? So I think all of these women owe a great deal of gratitude to Christy Martin. First off, I don't know if everyone has saw the documentary. Did everyone see the documentary?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll just go around and just give me your thoughts on the documentary. We'll start with you, Amilcar.
I thought it was great. My wife really enjoyed it as well. We sat down and watched it, and it was informative. It was entertaining. It was, exciting. It was sad. It ran through the gamut of kind of human emotion, and told a story that I think most people were not familiar with, even boxing fans. I know I wasn't. I had no idea she went through that kind of physical abuse at the hands of her husband/trainer. And I mean, this is embarrassing for me to say, but I did not even know that he stabbed and shot her. That was kind of new to me as well. I knew about Christy Martin. She was around when I was I think she started around when I was in like late elementary school, going into middle school, and then finally into high school. And what I do remember about her was her being on Tyson undercards, and her fights being extremely exciting. I mean, her undercard fights were more exciting than like most of the men that were fighting on the card. And I mean, one thing that separates Christy Martin from a lot of other female fighters, Ann Wolfe excluded, but even Layla Ali, to be honest, was that kind of one punch, knock you out cold punching power. I mean, it was incredible. And I definitely always remembered that. What I didn't know was all that was happening behind the scenes while she was doing that, which makes those feats and accomplishments even more incredible as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you're talking about a woman that's being physically abused by her husband, literally being knocked cold as part of training, right? And then going in to these fights with such confidence. At least that's what she was exuding through the press conferences and through their fighting style. I mean, her ability to kind of persevere in the face of all of that is remarkable. And they did a fantastic job with that one. I later watched the one on Caitlyn Jenner, and I was very unimpressed by it. It was not like eye-opening, nor was it really inside out honesty and you know, talking about personal flaws and all kinds of things. I mean, she talked about her drug use too, something that I never knew about.
Yeah, I didn't know the drug use. That's
So I
one thing
mean,
learned.
it went through everything, and I salute her, and I salute the people that made that documentary, and I salute Netflix, honestly, for giving her that kind of a platform, because she's up there with Caitlyn Jenner, who's a social media superstar / reality TV star / formerly a world's greatest athlete as the decathlon winner, huge person, Wheaties box, all of that. And then you've also got the Malice at the Palace one that talked about that infamous incident with the Detroit Pistons and the Indianapolis Pacers, right? Or Indiana Pacers. And then you have Christy Martin up there with that. And I thought that it was better than both of those. So again, salute to everybody involved.
Christine, I know you're very involved in boxing and women's boxing. So what were your thoughts? I'm sure this must have hit home with you as well. What are your thoughts on this documentary?
No, absolutely. And I have to shout out to D Styles, because Christy and I became friends after we were on a show together. And she and Wolf were, for me, just like it. Growing up, you know, there was nobody to look at, and I was always loving boxing, and we're all the same age, you know, so there was nobody before them, and once they got on the scene, it was just exhilarating. But I knew that I had heard things about, you know, her going through abuse and things like that, and but I didn't know the depths until, you know, I saw the documentary, and it just really touched me, because I do work with a lot of young adults and children, men and women, that do come from abusive homes. They've been sexually, physically, emotionally abused, and I could just see so many characteristics that I've seen in some of my boxers. And you know, boxers are very special. They go there for a purpose, for an outlet, a second home, a safe haven. And I just totally saw this in the documentary. That was her escape. You know, in the ring was her escape from all of this nightmare, with everything that she was going through. And yeah, I mean, I could see drug abuse and other things going on, because you want to escape, you know, and it really touched me. We had some conversations before the documentary came out, and I was like, girl, you know, you are a hero to so many men and women. It's going to be great. And it is great. It's wonderful. I'm so glad that people got to see beyond the ropes. You know, these things happen in real life, and we have to be aware. And when somebody reaches out, or you see little signs, you have to question and ask, you know, is everything okay? For me, that's what it brought out for me, because like I said, I see these things sometimes on a daily basis, and we have to ask questions. We have to make sure people are okay. But she's a superstar to me. She's amazing. I love her. I'm so glad she finally found peace and love and happiness, because she deserves it. And I'm no judge, but her ex-husband deserves to be where he's at as well. I thought it was fabulous. I really did.
Gail, what are your thoughts?
I have a background in law enforcement and have witnessed a lot of what happens in domestic violence situations. You know, for decades, women have done what it took to survive, particularly if they have children. And there have been many famous names exploited by their male handlers over the years. We're learning how many people, you know, in the entertainment business have gone through this, sports, is entertainment, and the women don't feel they've got a voice at all. They just, it's what do I need to do to get through another day? But it is a special kind of irony that someone powerful in the ring, a fighter, a winning fighter, has this other fight going on under the surface. It has taken so long for these women to realize that they need to be heard, they need to speak. There's power in speaking up. They don't need to hide. There are a lot of us out there who need to hear it, who need to be educated about it, and need to lean in and do something about it. I'm so grateful that someone in her position has added her voice to this mix. It's so important. If one woman in a similar situation hears that and thinks, I don't need to put up with this, I can get help, I can get out, it's all worth it. But it takes so much courage to do that. Way more courage than it ever took her to get into the ring. So bravo to Christy. She's a real winner. She's even more of a winner now in my book for having done this. And I hope more women will follow. And, may the day come that we really hear less and less of these stories until we do not hear them anymore.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
D, tell us your thoughts.
Well, first, having Christy Martin on was interesting for one reason for me. I've talked to many fighters over the years, and I've only been starstruck one time. And that's when Christy Martin came on. There was just something, I don't know whether it was nostalgia or whatever it was. That's the only time. Okay. It's the only fighter that I've had on that I'm throwing the word legend and I'm fanboying. I'll admit it. That's the one fighter I've had on that I've done that for. And if I've ever interviewed Eric Morales, that'll probably be the other one. But I will say, as far as the documentary goes, it was very, very well done. A lot of these things Christy had already talked to me about for the most part. She went into more kind of detail and all that in an interview she actually did with Christine, which I think was a great interview that she did. Because I think Christine could connect with her in a better way when it comes to like the domestic violence stuff than I can. But I do got to say that watching that documentary, it kind of takes you into like a roller coaster ride. And I mean, it's hard to believe that it's just like a true story, like the whole thing. It's extremely difficult to like comprehend that she was stabbed and she was shot, and she somehow found a way to get the strength and get out of that house and just survive. And I remember when I heard her say like, I ain't gonna die, like it gave me chills just hearing her say that.
Yeah.
And another thing that gives me chills is just kind of like she's in the courtroom. She looks at him in the eyes and she said, like, I'm not verbatim, but something like, you try to kill me, you son of a bitch, and I'm still here. Like to see a woman do that is amazing, right? To someone that tried to literally kill her, murder her in cold blood. Now the other thing is, it is amazing to me how her ex-husband, like, really, I don't know if he's delusional. I don't know if he really believes what he's saying.
Delusional.
Or he just doesn't want to admit it. He's so ashamed he doesn't want to admit it. I don't know which one it is.
Real quick, D.
But yeah, go ahead.
He's obviously a narcissistic sociopath.
Sociopath,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Like, I mean, because what else could it be? And there's not even a moment, like nothing. Like there's not even like hey, I'm sorry I did that. She was laid out and you shot her. Even if you believe the story that he was defending himself, she was laid out and you shot her. That's literally attempted murder in cold blood, like literally. That is amazing, and for him to go go take a shower and like that is amazing to me. I can't imagine doing that to anybody, much less a significant other. I couldn't imagine it. So it's definitely she has an amazing story, But to see her now, I mean, as far as the boxing side, my favorite quote of hers is, I don't want people to talk about me as a woman fighter. I wanted people to say
Right.
I was a great fighter, not a
Yes.
woman fighter, a
Yeah.
fighter,
Yeah.
and she's a fighter in and out of the ring. That's for sure. You know what I mean? And another chilling quote is when she says, you might beat the hell out of me. You might hurt me, but you're not going to kill me. Like, God damn, that's something.
Yeah.
She's made of something else. You know what I mean? That song, like I'm Titanium, that song, I think it's about her.
Yeah. Definitely.
I forgot one thing too. There's also the love story between her and her partner. I don't know if they're officially married, but the fact that they had so much animosity for one another when they were fighters. And then after Christy Martin goes through all that she went through, she ends up falling in love and becoming a partner with a woman she battled in the ring. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
As crazy as this may sound, James Martin obviously is a horrible human being for what he did, but he made Christy Martin what she is today, for good and for bad. By her being able to get through what she got through, made her that much stronger as a woman, right? Now, obviously, no one should have to go through that, but by going through that, she can go through anything now in life. Nothing can ever beat her. That's what I take away from her. Just what D Style said by those quotes. She said to herself, you know what? It's not going to happen. Not today, not ever. And she overcame it. So it's crazy when you look at it that way, but there's kind of a truth to it if you really think about it, right? All right, Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. I don't know if this is good or it's bad. Some people say it's good, others don't like it. My whole thing with Jake Paul is I'm not going to knock the kid's hustle, but I do want to see him fight a boxer. I would have loved to see him fight someone like a Tommy Fury, who is a novice himself. He's not a world-class fighter. He's still a novice trying to find his way through the boxing world. Why couldn't Jake Paul fight someone like that? No disrespect to Tyron Woodley, but he's just not a boxer. He's not a boxer. He's an older guy. Why not fight a younger novice just like yourself? I buy all the pay-per-views, but I'm struggling with this one. I may just buy this one because there's really nothing going on this weekend. What do we got? Jose Benavidez versus Francisco Torres. I think Anthony Yard's fighting. We don't have nothing going on, so I may just have to buy this out of boredom. What else am I going to do on a Sunday, right? I'm not going to – basically, I have no boxing to watch this weekend, so maybe I'll just have to break down and buy this one because I got nothing else. I mean, how much is the pay-per-view? Is this going to be $80, $75 too?
I'll check for you right now because I'm actually going to buy it.
You're going to buy it? Yeah.
I believe it's set at 50.
Oh, it's 50? Okay, so maybe
it's not one of the high ones.
Okay, so that'll be
But
good.
it's not down at $29.99 either.
And then by putting it on Sunday, they're trying to kind of copy the WWE. So they're basically telling you that, it's more along the lines of entertainment. It's not a real boxing match. But Jake Paul's telling you it's a real boxing match. He's telling you he's a real fighter.
$59.99.
Yeah,
$59.99.
Yeah.
Gil, I understand you need to go. So if you want to give us any final thoughts before you go.
Well, I live in the house of boxer, and that means dogs around here. And, they're like dinner time on the clock.
Oh.
Jake Paul versus Woodley. Am I going to buy that? No, I'm not buying that. I'm buying Amanda Serrano.
Yes.
We're just talking about Christy Martin and knockout power. The heir apparent to Christy Martin is Amanda Serrano, who does have that kind of knockout power. I will buy this card to see Amanda. I'll secondarily buy it to see Charles Conwell and, a couple of the undercards. Am I buying it for Paul and Woodley? They kind of come along with the package. I do appreciate that there are fighters of real skill and talent that are going along for the ride and getting the exposure. I'll tolerate these stunt fights and the eyeballs that bring them as long as the significant talents that need to be recognized go along for the ride. So by putting Serrano on the fight card, you know, I've spent $50-$60 on, you know, way dumber things than this. So yeah, it's a Sunday night. And I don't know about all of you, but most people who follow boxing, you know, we don't have any other social lives. So what the hell? Let's go for it.
Gotcha. All right, Gail. Thanks for stopping by. Have
Thanks,
a good
Gail.
one.
Thanks for having me. And my boxer Dolly thanks you because she's hungry and about to disrupt the show.
Yeah.
See you again
All right.
soon.
All right, take care, Gail. D, you gonna buy this? And what do you think of the fight? Who's gonna win? Is Jake Paul gonna knock him out, or does Woodley have a shot here?
You know, it's actually easier for me to predict fights of actual boxers because I've seen them fight. I have data. I have, you know, like we collected data on them. Like Woodley's never had a professional boxing fight. Jake Paul's never fought anyone of note, so I don't know who's better. It's impossible to know. Okay, so you knocked out a basketball player that's 5'9". Okay, you knocked out like the MMA fighter with the worst hands in history, in Askren. Okay, I don't know what that means. Like I don't know. Like maybe Woody does the same thing to those guys. It is so difficult to predict a fight with an MMA fighter who's not a boxer against this YouTube star that's like training in boxing, and he's getting some world-class training, in fairness. It's like people need to understand this dude ain't just like he's getting some real training. But look, I get that the dude's trolling. I get it. Okay, karma's a bitch, though. I don't know if you want to be looking at a dude in the face saying, "Oh, this sport's easy. I'm going to be a champion in 3 years," and all this other shit. Let me tell you something, brother. Like, you're going to get in a ring with somebody that's going to beat the shit out of you in that ring, and people like don't turn yourself into a meme. In other words, okay. Those words will come back to haunt you if you stick around, okay? And I'll tell you right now, is that Fury's cousin or like what is he?
That's his brother, Tommy Fury.
Okay, let me tell you something right now.
His younger brother.
When Tommy
22.
Fury told him, keep my name out of your mouth, he shut his mouth. Like I think he got chills on his back. Like I don't think he's playing with him, bro. And one of these days, it's not going to happen in the ring. You keep talking like this, you're going to run into the wrong dude. Like I'm telling you right now, you're going to run into the wrong dude. You're going to run into a James Toney type of guy that ain't playing with you. Like I'm just telling you. And that goes for boxers and MMA fighters. So you could keep trolling, but this shit ain't a game, and you're not impressing anybody, even if you do beat this dude. This dude ain't a boxer. That's not what he does. So that's my take. I'm not buying it.
Is Tommy Fury on this undercard of Milcar?
Yes, he is, and
Daniel,
so is Daniel Dubois. Yeah.
So the undercard's not horrible.
No, and Amanda Serrano's fighting a competent opponent.
Yeah.
I mean, the undercard is actually better than a lot of the undercards that I've seen on you know of other cards. So.
Let me just say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Look, when I was a kid, there was a song, okay, and it went something like this: "Roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the." Okay. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not gonna miss the fight. Okay. I just said I'm not gonna buy it.
Yeah. So you're gonna buy the milk card? Do you?
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth it?
I don't honestly think any pay-per-view is necessarily worth it unless it ends up being something crazy that I'm so happy that I watch live. I don't know if this will
ask
be.
Eric what he thinks for?
What is it? Oh yeah,
he'll buy it.
Yeah,
Title Town, baby.
Yeah, Title Town. Yeah. Eric's from Ohio, for those of you who don't know, and this fight is taking place in Ohio, where Jake Paul is from. So you know what? I titled the overtime. It's gonna be, is Jake Paul good for boxing? And I'm gonna say what I think about it right now. I think that he is good for boxing. You know, he has people talking about boxing, but most importantly, he's given opportunities to these fighters on the undercard. I was on the fence about him and his brother, but unless I see it as being something bad. I can't say that it isn't good, unless I stay neutral. But I'm actually just going to say I think it's good. Daniel Dubois would not be fighting in the United States on Sunday if it wasn't for this card. Amanda Serrano, out of her own mouth, was saying how happy she is to be given this opportunity. And you could also, I mean, Tommy Fury is interesting. He's out here again because of Jake Paul. So people are going to say, oh, you're crazy.
If Dubois would have beat Joyce, he wouldn't be on the undercard of a Jake Paul fight.
Yeah, but it's an opportunity to expose himself on his way back up. There's nothing wrong with that.
To the American public, too. I mean, Joe Joyce hasn't fought in front of an American crowd yet. So
yeah, but I don't know how many boxing like sports fans are going to be watching this event.
Well, yeah, that's even better because now these guys are going to be watched by people who normally wouldn't watch them.
You think these kids that climbing crates and eating Tide Pods are going to become big boxing fans overnight?
Well, look, if they're watching,
some may crossover. Some
okay,
crossover.
Yes, the answer is this is possible.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
I can't tell you how many people I've met who got interested in boxing because they were like fanatics about pro wrestling. I've heard that so many times. And what is pro wrestling? It's entertainment performed inside the ring where there is, the imaginary combat between two individuals, and there's a lot of fireworks and video screens and holograms and all type of stuff involved with it. But guess what? People who enjoy that have then said, oh, wait, boxing, 4 rings. Oh, this could be kind of cool. Mike Tyson was acting kind of scary and crazy, when I saw him on Sports Center or whatever. But here's how I view the fight itself. I agree with D-Style. It's like tough to judge. But the way I look at it is this. It's not a boxer versus a boxer. It's a sportsman versus a sportsman or athlete versus athlete. That's how I look at it. Who is the better athlete? At this point, Tyron Woodley is like essentially the same age as me, I believe, in his late 30s, right? Jake Paul is a young man. And from everything I've seen, he's very athletically gifted. He absolutely is. Like, just look at the way he skips rope to his sprinting and his running and, the yoga that he's doing and all kinds of stuff. Like, he's actually a good athlete, so I'm picking Jake Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm picking Jake Paul too. Christine, are you going to buy this event because of Amanda too and the undercard, or what do you think?
Absolutely, because of Amanda and Mercado. That's why I'm going to watch it. I think that boxing people will buy it too to see Jake Paul get beat one day. I think that's the only thing. I think that's the only reason. I think we that know boxing and have been in boxing know that this guy is not a boxer. And I still cannot. Is he doing great things? I've heard he is, and wonderful. But I just cannot accept him as a boxer. It's like someone dressing up as a fireman and saving the cat from on top of the tree. Well, he did what a fireman does, but has he really done what a fireman does? So I just can't do it right now. And maybe I'm just, I don't know, stubborn or whatever, but I can't respect him as a boxer when I've seen what boxers go through and what they do. And yeah, he was on the internet and he's making his money and he's gaining his fans. Good for him. That's great. He's an internet sensation and he's crossed over to boxing, whatever. But I think that boxing people watch him to see him get beat. I mean, that's just what I think.
Did he call him the fireman? Is that what he called him?
No, I'm just saying, I can dress up like a fireman and do a fireman do, but am I a fireman?
You call me the fireman.
What's funny?
That's my name.
It's funny?
Run my rounds all over town. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that what Christine said, and D-Style's a very underrated singer, by the way. We got to get D-Style doing karaoke live, and I guarantee you he'll make a lot of money on the super chats. Anyways, what I was saying was that there are boxing fans that want to see him lose. But you know what else there is? There's also boxing fans that want to see him knock MMA guys the fuck out.
Oh,
And
sure, absolutely.
they're
Feel that
I've
rivalry.
yeah, I've talked to people like that too. It's like you want to say that Paul is some pretend boxer or whatever. Okay, he has 3 professional fights against low tier opposition, but many pro boxers start their careers like that, right? But when it comes to Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, people want to see the MMA guy look like a clown in the face of #boxing. That's what that's what they want to see.
You're right about that, because there's like there's that MMA culture of like guys that are like, oh, Woodley should fight Canelo, and like, fight Canelo? Like, are you fucking mad? Oh, how about you beat this YouTuber first, and then we'll see. You know what I mean?
Jake say in the next 3 to 5 years he's gonna fight Canelo too? Like, I mean, he said the same thing, right? Was it 3 to 5 years, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous, but it got the job done. You know, didn't Mike Tyson say that he wanted to eat Lennox Lewis's children? I mean,
oh wait, yeah, Lennox had no children at the time.
No, I didn't see that happen. You know, so boxing is a history of entertainment and shit talk, insane stuff that is gonna put you on Instagram and on Sports Center and on YouTube. You know.
He's doing that.
Hey, Lennox, did you take offense to him saying you want to eat your children? No, I didn't have children. Like, that's what he said. I didn't have children.
Yeah, that could have gone way south. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna buy the event. I think the undercard's pretty solid. There's not much to do on a Sunday.
Come on.
I want to sneak one more topic.
You have Ringside Report on Sunday. You have Ringside Report to do on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll watch it right after the show.
All right.
I want to sneak one more topic in here. This is kind of an intriguing topic. It's not, I mean, obviously we don't want to throw salt on anyone's wounds or kick anyone down, but Jermall Charlo arrested on these felony robbery charges over an alleged dispute bar tab. Now, I have to say, to me, this is a little fishy. It seems like a little bit of clout chasing by the bar, because apparently this whole incident happened the night before Jermell's fight with Brian Castano. Now they're coming out with it over a month later. So did they find out who Jermall was, and now they're trying to cash in on this? Now that apparently this was over a bar tab. Jermall's card was declined, and they're saying that he got in some argument with the employees and he was being rowdy and he didn't pay his bar tab. I guess the bar tab was $2,300. And his lawyer, I guess, said the bar staff had agreed to settle the tab of around $2,300 the next day. But by then the police were involved. He was trying to, walk the tab. Schaefer said it was very, very clear he was trying to pay. And I guess the surveillance video had no audio, but the staff is saying that Charlo was being unruly to them, saying he was gonna F y'all's shit up, I guess. So what do you guys think? Is this legit or is this clout chasing? Go ahead, D.
So here's the thing. So first of all, I also read that he supposedly stole cash from the waitress. I have a hard time believing that a prize fighter making 6 to 7 digits a fight, okay, is going to be stealing cash from a waitress. Yeah. I just have a hard time. It doesn't mean it's not possible. I just have I need some hard evidence of that. You know what I mean? Like, because that's so he's gonna steal her $200 tips of the night. Like, is that what he's gonna do? Like, for what? Like, that makes no sense. The other thing is, from my understanding, now this has happened to me before, where my bank card finds it suspicious and they don't allow me to take money from the ATM, or it gets declined, and I gotta fucking call them and tell them, can you please activate my damn card? Yeah. Bank of America now has a feature where they'll send you a text. You know what I mean? And you could respond to the text and say, yes, that's me using my card. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that is a thing, especially now. Now you have the chips in the cards, and the chip doesn't work half of the time. I don't know what the hell's going on, but anyway. And then you need a new one because the chip gets wrong, and then they want to charge you $20. But I'm making it about me now. But look, all right. So that happens. It happens that cards get declined, and according to the story, I believe they said it was Chase. Okay. Bank, they declined it for whatever reason. Look, Charlo has more than $2,000 in his fucking bank account. Okay, so like this idea that he didn't have the money, went over and spent all that money, and then he left. I find it hard to believe. And if he didn't have it, his brother would have it. Al Heyman would have it. Like somebody had to involve with him. If he didn't have it, would have it. Okay, so I'm not sure if him leaving without payment is the issue, which you're not supposed to do that. In fairness, okay. But why is this coming out now? Why all this time later? Like all of a sudden, like it just comes out, and then TMZ puts the freaking mugshot like he just did something wrong. Like it's crazy to me, right? It is clear to me that this could have been easily resolved. Okay, just by making the payment. Did he yell? I've yelled at people at Applebee's because they get my order wrong. Okay. I say, what the fuck? This now, maybe not if, but I've got it to the point where they keep fucking it up, and then I start using the F word. You know what I mean? Because bartender, now again, I'm not throwing accusations out here, but I've experienced this. Bartenders, waitresses, they could start fucking with you, okay? And they start doing it on purpose. Quick tip: I used to work at a restaurant. If you get in an argument with the staff, don't eat there anymore. They're going to spit on your food. Okay, I'm just letting you know right now. Okay, request a refund or request like some type of gift card to come back another time. I just want to throw that out there. With that said, so what if he said he was going to do this and that? He could say whatever the fuck you want. So what? He could have said whatever he wanted. All right? If he wanted to fuck a dude up, he would have fucked him up. So that's not what he was there to do. Right? So was he drunk? Was he not? I don't know. But at the end of the day, why is this coming out now? I'm having a hard time believing, okay, that he stole money from the waitress. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I'm a good tipper, no Paul, okay? But I had a bad experience at Applebee's. They kept fucking up my order, and it got to a point where it's just I told the waiter, I said, either you're fucking with me or you're retarded. That's what I said.
Oh, wow.
I said, either you're fucking with me or you're that stupid.
Whoa!
I might have said stupid actually, but you know, for the record, I said stupid.
Like you didn't leave in cuffs in that day.
No, bro, it was me, my ex at the time, my brother, my dad. We got escorted out. The staff started singing na 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 na. Nah, bro, I was pissed, bro. But you know how much tip they got? They got nothing. You got no tip. Nothing. You got no fucking tip. Go ahead.
Emil Carr, what's the deal? What's the deal with this?
I just wanted to show that I could empathize with getting pissed off. That's all. Go ahead.
I got you.
Look, I've only lived in big cities my whole life. And in a lot of the cities I've lived in, including where I am right now in New York City, men, women, gay men, straight men, they go off in these kind of establishments. Like I see it not all the time, but regularly enough. You know what I mean? Or they'll, especially people of a very high income bracket. I mean, they're some of the biggest complainers, right? Like, if they are not seen and attended to, like, immediately, especially if it's in one of these fancy stores, they go off on the staff. It sounded to me like Jermall Charlo was doing something that people shouldn't do, but emotions happen. And when a place is, not being understanding or making you feel like you are less than you are because your card got declined, he was probably in his feelings and getting like a little emotional about it. Now, I agree with what D-Style said in terms of how this probably happened. I have Chase. It's like a big bank here in New York. And I've got their credit card, and my bank account is there too. They're the most officious of all of these banks I've dealt with. Yeah. Like the slightest thing will flag something for security, and then you got to go and speak to somebody on the phone, and sometimes confirm your identity with. It's like so hardcore. So that's probably what happened. Like they're like, wow, who spends this kind of money in an Applebee's or whatever the hell it was? You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't know that you could spend $2,500 at the Cheesecake Factory or at whatever the place it was.
Somebody buying everyone in the big table food and drinks. That's who.
Yeah, but people don't go to Applebee's to do that. Like people go to a nicer establishment if they want to show off. Like nobody goes to Applebee's to show off. You know what I mean? You're going to Applebee's because you want to save money, you know, and eat
drink
some.
The beer's nice and cold.
Take advantage of the happy hour. You know, nobody goes to a happy hour and is like, you know what? All the drinks are on me tonight. No, people go to happy hour because they want to save money. So that probably flagged it, right? It's not like he was shopping at Tiffany's or whatever.
It might have been an Al Heyman recommendation to save money. You know what I mean?
There you go. So now we get to the point where his card declines. You know, he's probably a little embarrassed. He's sensitive is what I think both of the Charlos seem to be. I'm not saying that in a bad way or demeaning way. Like, you know, there wouldn't be road rage if men weren't sensitive, you know. That's literally a man's sensitivity leading him to some kind of, you know, so that's all I'm saying. But it doesn't match up, man. Not with the stealing the money part. He's not going to steal money. Because think about this. Just the image he wants to project does not involve stealing. Like, he has more than he needs. Look at his house. Look at his cars. Like, a guy who's taking his boys out to go eat and drink like that and is paying the tab, albeit at Applebee's, you know, he's not the guy that's going to be stealing money.
His homeboys are broke. I can tell you that right now. Because none of them were able to pay it. None of them were, hey, no problem, brother. I got you.
22 dudes, and they couldn't cover $100 each or whatever it was. It's kind of insane.
Yeah.
You know.
Christine, this ever happened to you, Christine?
Absolutely not. First of all, D-Styles, I'm sorry, not sorry, but don't ever take a girl on a date to Applebee's again. Okay, sorry. It
wasn't a date. It was the family getting together, like to eat.
You said your ex-girl. I'm not gonna say why.
I was with my brother and my dad and like the family. Like,
dude, come on, dude.
D-Style was balling out of control at Applebee's. He's like Jermall Charlo.
Cheap. All right.
Yeah, what's next? Would you go to Dairy Queen and get a Blizzard for dessert? Come on, kid.
Am I surprised to hear that the Charlos have been out of control, emotional, whatever? No, I mean that's we've heard that before, and we've seen that before. As far as the stealing, you know, they said that his driver's license, he wanted it back, and his credit card. Do I think he maybe grabbed her, you know, little case that she puts her money in, where she keeps the credit cards and the driver's license? Maybe so. He's like, give me my stuff. And sometimes women can be emotional and exaggerate a little bit. I'll say that. Not all women, but some. And she probably, he's taking my money, you know, and everything escalated. Do I think that he's totally innocent? No. Do I think that the bar is? No. I think they were clout chasing. Oh, this is, you know, one of the Charlos. So yeah, let's call TMZ or whoever. I think it's a big misunderstanding. I think it was blown out of proportion, and it's just something that happens when you have money and you're famous. I mean, I really do.
By the way, is it doing with the warrant going to go meet the governor of Texas? Like, you know what I mean? Because that's where he was a couple weeks ago. Like, he took a picture with a dude and he presented him with a WBC belt. It's not like he was in fear of like getting arrested. You don't go see the governor of Texas if you got warrants or like you're in fear of getting arrested or something.
You might. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But no, I think it was blown out of proportion. Do I think that Charlo, like I said, is totally innocent with his, you know, loud and emotional ways? No. Do I think the waitress is innocent? No. She's like, he's taking my money. No, he wants his ID back. He wants his credit card back, you know. So yeah, it was just blown out of proportion, in my opinion. It's nothing.
And then I heard Christine that the lady is allegedly claiming she got injured when like they were walking past her. You know, but slightly injured. Slightly injured. So what, they brushed up against you and or like, their knee hit your knee while they were
Look,
walking out.
look,
I mean,
this is the thing. My family, we own restaurants, and it is not unheard of that sometimes waitresses or people that work the bar might be drinking while they're working. So, who knows? Maybe she got pushed over and she wasn't, all there, whatever, as they were walking by. But come on, what injuries, seriously, I don't know. Everything's been
Stretch.
exaggerated.
Did Charlo get me too'd here? Is he gonna get canceled?
No, I don't know. I hope not. I mean, look,
I
I hope the truth just comes out.
Culture, it's just
Is he
ridiculous.
canceled? They're gonna take his Twitter down?
No, I hope not. But I'll say this: it's just one more thought on this. And in all seriousness, I saw Chicano put this in the chat, and it's a good point. Look, a lot of people at restaurants do complain, okay, about anything and everything because there's people out there that they want a free meal, they want to have a reason. You know what I mean? Have a reason, like they just want to have a reason to like have an excuse to not leave a good tip or whatever it is, or they feel some type of power because they're being served to, and you're my servant, and they're not your servants. Okay, they're there to take you your food that you order and refill your drink. That's all they are. All right. Just get it right, though. You know what I mean? If you get it wrong, it's okay, but don't keep getting it wrong. You know what I mean? Like 5 times.
Don't go to Applebee's.
I'm saying. No, that's true.
All right, closing thoughts. Maestro, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yep, everyone can find me at Maestro A Boxing, Meister A Boxing, or Maestro A. I always struggle to say it in English. So Maestro A Boxing, part of the HCP network of great boxing channels. And you can catch me actually right after this because I'm going to be dropping a link to the overtime. And I'm going to make a case about why I think Jake Paul is actually pretty good for boxing.
All right. Christine, let everyone know where they can find you.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, In the Ring with Christine. Catch me and the girls every Wednesday. Women Crushing It Wednesdays, 7:30 Central. All women panel. Sometimes we'll have some male guests and stuff like that, but all women panel, and just check us out.
D-Style, HCP in the house.
Yo, so remember when Ugas won, he said, "Who's the WBA champ? I'm the WBA champ, right? ¿Quién es campeón del WBA? Yo soy el campeón del WBA." I just want to tell you, who is the fantasy football champion? I'm the fantasy football champion. That's what I am. This is what I got, and I was treated very well at Hooters, by the way.
There you go.
Okay, great service at Hooters. I just want to put that out there. The service.
Go back to Applebee's.
Was great. You know what I mean? So great wings, great stuff, all that good stuff. Everybody go to Maestro right now. Click on that link, and all that good stuff. And that's all I got to say. By the way, every Tuesday, Hispanic Causing Panics podcasts. Stay tuned every Monday on G Funky Boxing. G Funky and D-Style were like the yin and the yang. You can't have one without the other. You know what I mean? So that's the way it is. It's the HCP duo, so make sure you catch our shows. And I heard a rumor that this dude called D-Style is going to be on Women Crushing the Wednesday for a little bit.
I heard that
That's
too.
what I heard. Yeah.
I heard that too. So y'all better tune in on Wednesday and see if the rumor's true.
All right, first off, shout out to the whole HCP network. And you can find me on Twitter at JHabib1, Facebook Joe Habib, and on YouTube, Ringside Reporter Live. Make sure you check me out. And Eric Lauda every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time for our show. And we're out. Have a good one, guys. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Peace. Yo. Oh, he didn't end the show?